today's recipe is chicken bread. This recipe is divided into two parts. First part we will do is prepare the dough for the bread, and then we will move on making the filling for this bread. So to prepare the dough, here I have 1 cup of milk. It's around 241 ml of milk. Here I've got 3 tablespoons of melted butter, 1 whole egg. This egg should be at room temperature. Here I have 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon active dry yeast. So these are the ingredients that I will be using to activate this yeast. Next, we also need 3 cups of all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of salt. So I'll keep the all-purpose flour and teaspoon of salt aside, and we will start activating this yeast. I'll whisk this egg. Make sure your egg is room temperature. If your egg is cold and you're adding it to lukewarm milk, then what the cold egg does, it drops the temperature of the milk and your active dry yeast will not activate and will not rise. And if that doesn't happen, you have to restart this entire process of activating the yeast. To check if your milk is good enough, you can either dip your finger and see if it's lukewarm. It should not be hot to the touch. And here, if I just I'm using a candy thermometer to check the temperature of my milk. The milk temperature should ideally be anywhere between 38 degrees Celsius to 43 degrees Celsius, or 100 Fahrenheit to 110 Fahrenheit. So this is just around 100 Fahrenheit, and this is perfect for my yeast. So now what I'll do is I'll add sugar. Sugar activates this yeast. Give it a good stir. Add in the yeast. Make sure you've got room temperature melted butter as well as room temperature egg. And what I'll do is I'll give this a quick stir, and I will let this whole mixture sit for at least a minimum of 10 minutes. It's been exactly 10 minutes since I left this for rising. I had covered it with a plate, and you can see the yeast has risen so well here. And this is what I will be adding to my flour for kneading this dough. Always remember, if your yeast doesn't rise like this, then you need to restart the entire process of making this bread. I've added flour to my bowl. Now I'll add salt as well, and just give it a quick stir. Add the yeast mixture. Let's start kneading the dough. I will be kneading it for a minimum of 7 minutes till the dough is soft. This dough is well kneaded. I'll show you how it looks. It's soft and nice, and at this point of time I will let this dough rest for at least 1 hour. This dough is perfect. Now what I'll do is I'll let it rise. I'll just cover it with a plastic wrap or a cling film. I'll also cover it with a cloth, and I'll keep it in a warm place for it to rise. For the chicken filling for this recipe, here I've got tandoori chicken. For the recipe of tandoori chicken, please watch my video mentioned in the description box below. There I've used a whole chicken, but you can use the same recipe which I've done, and I've used it with boneless chicken. So here I've got 500 grams of tandoori chicken. Here I've got 1 small onion. This is around 75 grams finely chopped, 1 tablespoon of garlic paste, 2 tablespoons of maida or all-purpose flour. Here I've got 3 tablespoons of butter. If you want, you can add a little more butter. As we go along with the recipe, we'll find out if we need more butter or not. And here we've got ½ teaspoon of white pepper powder. If you don't like white pepper powder, you can most certainly use black pepper powder. And here I've got 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of canned sweet corn. What I've done is I removed the water, the liquid from the sweet corn, and this is what I'm going to use for the recipe. Now because this chicken is already cooked with my tandoori chicken recipe, all my masalas or spices are already in this chicken. But if you don't have this and you just want to use plain chicken, what you need to do is you need to boil the chicken first with water and salt, and then if you have a chicken stock cube, you can add that and drain the water out, and then you can use that chicken for this recipe. So let's start preparing this dish. So what I'll do is now I'll just chop this tandoori chicken into bite sizes. You can also shred it. Here I've chopped the chicken nicely. Now this is what we're going to use to prepare this recipe. To a warm pan, add butter. To the melted butter, add garlic paste and saute it for less than a minute. Now here my garlic is fried well. To this I'll add my chopped onions, and I will just fry them till they are transparent. I don't need to fry them till they turn brown. My flame currently is on medium, and constantly stir the onion with the butter and garlic because you don't want the garlic from burning, and neither do you want the onions from burning while it's cooking. So it's taken me less than a minute frying the onions. Now I'll add in my sweet corn. Saute the sweet corn for at least a minute or two. Now I'll add in my white pepper powder. If you don't want to use white pepper powder, you can most certainly use black pepper for this recipe. Saute it for another minute. Now I'll add in my tandoori chicken that I've cooked. Give it a good stir, and I'll let this saute or just let it cook for at least 2 to 3 minutes. If you don't want to use chicken for this recipe, you can skip the chicken and just make it a vegetarian dish with using sweet corn. If you have bell peppers, you can add bell peppers at this time, or any vegetable of your choice. You can even add carrots, grated carrots, peas. It's all up to you. After 2 minutes, add all-purpose flour, also known as maida, and give it a good stir. And we will saute this for at least 2 to 3 minutes till the maida is cooked well in it. So what I aim here is to make a white sauce for this recipe. So I'm just adding it here so that the raw flavor of the maida is gone, and that's why I'm just sauteing continuously. Once this is almost ready, please check for the salt. Because I've used salt already in my tandoori chicken, I don't need too much salt for this recipe, but definitely taste for salt once you make the chicken filling. Now add in your milk. My milk is at room temperature. What I'm doing is I'm adding the 1 cup of milk and give it a quick stir. What I'll do is now at this point of time, I will lower my flame to low, and I will let this milk cook till it thickens and dries out in this recipe. Milk has dried out, and this is what I actually want. At this point of time, you can taste for the salt in the recipe. Also, if you think the spices are less, you can even add more spices. Here I'm just adding some chili flakes. This is a complete option, but I just like to add chili flakes to this chicken and give it a quick stir. And now what I'll do is I'll set this aside in a bowl, and I'll wait for it to cool down before using it in my bread dough recipe for the chicken bread. It's been 1 hour since this dough has been rising. Now I'll just uncover it, and you can see it's beautifully risen in size. Now I'll place this on my rolling mat. Just using a little flour, just punch the air out of it. Roll it well. Now divide this dough into two equal portions. and just shape it into a ball first before flattening it. And we will be making 2 loaves of chicken bread. So I will be shaping this dough into oval shape. While I'm doing one of the dough balls, I'll cover the other one and keep it aside to avoid it from drying. So let's start shaping. I'm using little flour. Don't dust too much flour for this bread because you don't want to dry it out. I've rolled this dough out into a nice long oval shape. You can see the thickness of this dough. This is perfect for my bread recipe. Now what I'll do is I'll place this on a parchment, on my baking tray, on a parchment paper that I've lined. You can see. And what I'll do is I will fill up the center of this dough with the prepared chicken filling. So let's start doing that. Make sure it's in the center of this dough. Make sure all the filling is in the center. If you want, you can place this filling even to the ends of this dough. I'll just keep a little away from the edges. Now what I like doing is I will be just making a slit, or what you say, just cut it like this, angular. And now what I'll do is I'll just take this in, fold this in like this, and here too I'll just make it a bit small slits, and I'll just take it forward. Now what I'll do is I'll bring in one fold in, then I'll bring the other one in here. Just, you can see how I'm just getting it in. Alternating it. Just need to overlap it, and if you haven't cut the slit well enough, just cut it again and continue overlapping these folds to shape it into a nice bread shape, a loaf. And this is how it should be. Now this is one loaf ready. I'll prepare the second loaf. I'll cover this and let it rise for 15 minutes before baking it. Now let's check. This is the second rising that's done for this bread recipe. Now what I'll do is, here I have a mix of 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of cold water. What I've done is I just whisked it, and I will be applying it to this bread as an egg wash. So this will give a nice brown, golden brown color to this bread. After applying the egg wash, now I have some sesame seeds. I'll sprinkle some of the sesame seeds over the top. This is an option. If you want, you can do it. If you don't want, you can skip it as well. I will also be adding some onion seeds. This is also known as kalonji. So this is a complete option as well. One is I've preheated my oven at 190 degrees Celsius or approximately 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I will keep this for baking in the oven on the top rack, and I'll bake it till it's golden brown and done. It's been exactly 20 minutes since this bread has been baking. At this point of time, I will remove it from the oven. It's nice and golden brown. You can see how beautifully this chicken bread is baked. Now while the bread is piping hot, I've just removed it from the oven. I will just brush a little melted butter over this bread. I'll cut into the bread when it's a little cooler for me to handle it. I'll cut into the bread using a serrated bread knife. Still very hot for me to handle. You can see it's turned out so well. You can see how well this bread is cooked, and it's soft and nice. You can see how nicely it's cooked, and this is ready to enjoy. This chicken bread is ready to serve. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Please click on the bell icon for notification of my latest videos, and thank you for watching.